Welcome to your daily Standard Editors podcast. And of course, today we are privileged to host the lady who is always on the other side of the news and a seasoned editor, and myself. I'm your host, CEO Charles Otieno. And we bring you various topics we'll cover in our news bulletins and in our news gathering progress. Karibuni sana.
Thank you.
Introduce yourself, madam.
All right, it's very exciting to be here, actually. You're very right. I'm usually on the seat
side
that you are on.
Yeah.
And my name is Ankey Dorice Ombat. I'm very excited to be here and just what's going to come forward, the different perspectives, my perspectives, and much more. Thank you, Charles.
Karibu.
I'm Wanyonyi, not very camera friendly, but we're here to discuss things and we'll do that.
Wanyonyi.
Yes.
Let's start with the vaccine story. The Kenyan government and the funders of vaccines are saying that we do not have enough vaccines in store. What's going on in the Republic?
You see, the problem with this government is that it shoots itself on the foot all the time and never seems to learn.
Yeah.
So I think three things happened. One, we said our market has expanded to a middle income economy.
Yeah.
That means whatever discounts we were getting in purchases of these vaccines was going to be reduced over the years, I think up to 2030, where we should now start purchasing on our own, because being middle income means you can sustain some of these things.
Yes, yeah.
It's not like a poor country.
Yeah.
So that kicked in. Number two, they trimmed the vaccines budget from 2.5 billion to 1.2. That's more than half. Hoping that a miracle would happen. Gavi said, hey, you guys owe us 6 billion. Give us 2 billion, then we can deliver the vaccines for this year. Government did not do that. Why? Because they did not have money, which they knew from the beginning that if you slash the budget, you will not have money to pay for these vaccines. So for the last, I think, 10 months, government has not procured vaccines. BCG is 10 months. I think there is a DTP, which is 8 months, or the other way around. So right now, Nahumicha is running around saying, oh, we are trying to plug these holes by going to a county that has more vaccines to give to one that has less. They have given 250 million to purchase emergency vaccines. But you can see it's just poor planning.
Strictly.
Because children are born every day. These vaccines are dished out every day. How comes the government wakes up and realizes that it has a stockpile of 2 months, then the crisis hits.
But Wanyonyi, and maybe I give this to Ankey. We fund this through counterpart funding, isn't it? Which is you bring your money, I bring my money, and then we purchase, and then you schedule. What went wrong before that 2013 when we are saying that we had to cut the budgets? What went wrong?
Basically, and like he has said, there is a planning concern here. Even in the budgetary, you're looking at an amount of money set forth, but there's always been an issue. Let's just speak on exactly what the budget allocations bring in, the disbursement, and the funds actually reaching the ministries or bodies that are expected to have these funds in their hands. So there's that allocation and financing issue, and also there's just some sort of someone sleeping on the job. I know that the bodies that have also been mentioned, including CAMSA, you've even heard of the HIV vaccine, someone saying we did not vaccine really the HIV now. There's also a concern about some HIV medications and kits, testing kits. And someone says, well, the ministry procured it, or we didn't procure it, or someone says, well, that is fake. We even have the main manufacturers coming now to want to sue part of this people because of this. It's not fake, it is fake. There is just some sort of laxity, reluctance that is being seen in first the financial support, and secondly the personnel that are supposed to make systems work. I think that's where we have an issue so far in how the systems are working.
Wanyonyi, how do you...
Charles,
yes.
I'll just add one point to that. I think it's a typical Kenyan problem.
Yeah.
And it is very sad that government wants to run like friends who meet in social gatherings, in bars or churches or chamas. Early this month, parents had prepared themselves to take kids to school.
Yes.
What happened? There was floods. School was suspended to 6th of May, the opening.
Yeah.
before the 6th, the president said, it's been suspended indefinitely.
Yeah.
What did majority parents do? They
Squander
chewed
the
their
money.
school fees.
Squander the money.
So government knows that it had stocks for 8 months.
Yeah.
So instead of budgeting post the 8 months,
Yes.
they did what? They chewed the money. They reallocated the funds to other things, cutting budgets and doing
Yes.
these things.
Yeah.
Now, reality is there. The schools have reopened. Parents are looking to Shylocks
To get some money
to
to
get
take
some
kids
money to get
kids to school.
yeah,
Yeah.
same thing that government has done. Just poor planning.
Is the government serious, Wanyonyi, our government?
Has it ever been?
Oh.
But
Ankey.
really, Charles, speaking of, because I'm going to speak first as, somebody who is really in motherhood
Yes.
and parenting.
Yeah.
If we get to a point of, are you being serious or are you being a violating party in as far as human rights are concerned?
Yeah.
You see, immunization and vaccinations are not something you sit down and debate about, whether
You
to give it
can't,
or
yeah.
not, or to play around with the funds or divert the funds, for that matter.
Yeah.
This is like lives at stake. We're looking at very key vaccines here at birth.
Yes.
3 months, 6 months. I mean, we have children who didn't even have their vaccines at birth.
Yeah.
If we all Kenyans would look at their arms, I think we all have that scar.
Yeah.
Some children don't have this yet. They might be crossing the 6 month or 9 month age, and they still don't have this. How vulnerable are these children? If it comes to the government being serious, I think it's not even a matter of being serious anymore. I think it's being a clown kind of government, because these are children we're talking about. They're very vulnerable citizens. And as far as even protecting, number one, their health is concerned. Wanyonyi has spoken about education. But how do you even take children who are vulnerable to now the cholera outbreak, for example, to schools? They're already sick.
So, and I like what you're saying, that the government is not serious. It's just like a group of comedy. But Wanyonyi, is this government, if you look at them, is it like there's a book on Among Thieves? Is it that these guys do not know what they're doing and they're stealing from this hand to sort these issues out?
When you want to analyze this government, I think you can go bonkers. You'll be mad at the end of the discussion. Mad, not angry, but you can easily take off your shirt and walk
And
away.
run.
Because there are things that are too basic
Yeah.
that beat even your basic comprehension.
Yeah.
The economic survey has indicated 1.2 children were born
Last year.
2023.
Yes, last year.
These children will start taking the
BCG.
vaccines from birth. I think
Yes.
after 6 weeks,
Yeah.
you
Yes.
have polio, you have
Missiles.
all these things.
Yeah.
The government knows, it has the figures, it has the data, it knows where these
It
kids
collects the data, actually.
are. So at what point do you decide that you don't need vaccines, you slash the budget, if you are not just nuts? You see, in the US, I think, and part of Europe, there is this thing, there is a group called the anti-vaccine campaign.
Yeah.
They are saying our kids will not take these vaccines. But if that is the thinking of the government, in America, they eradicated polio. They do not have things like whooping cough.
Yes.
But we do. Every day you can see instances. I mean, is it last year that they had to do emergency polio vaccination by using, was it WHO or USAID? I'm not sure which one. But they had to do it because there was a strain that was found, I think, in the Dandora dam site or somewhere in Madare,
Yeah.
a polio strain, which means these things are here with us.
Yeah.
You don't vaccinate these kids, you'll have a crisis
Yeah.
in not even in a year, in a few months. Because by the time these kids get enough immunity to fight off some of these things, they'll have grown up.
Yeah.
But by the time they get to that, majority of them will be affected. Imagine having kids with polio, things that
Basic
can be prevented.
things. Yeah. Preventative.
Yeah. And government is there. That same economic survey shows how many health centers have which vaccine, which one is short, how many kids have been vaccinated. Government has all that data.
Is it, Ankey, the government, the ministers we are picking for these roles are not conversant with the depth of the matter, or what is it?
Would we really, say there's ignorance in an entire
Might
ministry?
be. 1965 problems, ignorance, disease.
What happens to competence? What happens to research? I think we have research in this country. I think we work in tandem. I wouldn't really think there's an excuse of ignorance, maybe negligence. But ignorance for me, Charles, I do not think that's an excuse that the ministry could bring forth. Looking at, them talking about by the next week, first week of June, things should get at par. We had Gibora saying we need to mop out, using that word itself, mop out. We're really behind schedule with those children, but it's not something new. Childbirth, really.
It's 9 months notice.
It's just a sad thing.
So what is the impact of all this, ladies and gentlemen? What is the impact of not having vaccines, and how do you paint that picture to Kenyans who have kids out there, and what is the reprieve for them because they can't afford it?
The impact is that very many children will lose their lives for things that we could prevent. Very many kids will suffer disabilities for diseases that they could easily have prevented had someone done their job. The government says in another 1 week, but we do not know if damage has already been done. Because if there are kids who did not get this vaccine, say this month or last month, government said last week it was talking about a 2-month stockpile, saying that we are not in a crisis yet. But evidently for this thing to, actually it was the Council of Governors that raised the red alarm and said, hey, we do not have vaccines in our
hospitals.
centers.
47 counties, really. It was a back.
So for governors to raise these alerts means there are kids who have gone without the vaccines. And I mean, why would you lose a child of a vaccine? A tuberculosis, a whooping cough, diphtheria, things that, I mean, surely.
In 2024.
But I want to bring in something to this conversation. Look, I was going through an article. And a woman highlighted, I will not really mention her name, though it's printed. She has five children, 5 out of 4 out of the 5. I mean, she's not interested in the vaccine anyway. So even if we made it available, the parents who, based on religious reasons or cultural reasons, are not even affected at this point in time. And in fact, they are not for the vaccine. So would we entirely put it on the government at this point in time that there is shortage of the vaccine, or are Kenyans also just not sensitized enough on the need and the results of not having a vaccine? Because this is a current story, Charles, Wanyonyi, and so there are Kenyans who are seemingly not even worried about this.
That's true, but you see, it's the government's responsibilities to make them available.
Yes, we are talking about availability.
Whether I use it or not is secondary. Second, vaccine is supposed to prevent. It's not curing. You do not have it. Chances are you might live without it or without contracting this disease and survive. So if these madam said the kids are not going for vaccination, we hope and we pray to God that they don't contract these diseases. But should they contract them, definitely there'll be a lot of problems.
And the damage would be greater.
It would be so huge.
Maybe, Ankey, what you also need to understand is that the numbers, the religious fanatics are very few in a population. It's a sample. They are basically outliers. And they've always been there who've been told by that this one will, when you're growing up, you're being told some medication will make you do family planning by not when you've agreed to do it. So I think it's just a way people are lied to, misinformation. But it's good to just state that this is for availability and it's government's responsibility to provide.
Provide the vaccines. Because actually in private hospitals, the vaccines are there. But now the cost is too high for...
You can't afford it.
Probably 9 out of 10 Kenyans cannot afford the private hospital vaccines.
In fact, gentlemen, just before we even proceed, you see there's the cholera outbreak. We did expect that it would come. After the heavy rains, the floods. But looking at the cases, so far 1 fatality, reported. We're in above 60. 67 thereabouts.
There's 68 people 68. Already.
And we are looking at how it has spread across. There was a program rolled out for cholera, I think last year, April, and there was another in August. And so the medical experts are saying after that rollout program, we are not seeing the cholera outbreak as severe. All right, looking at it that way. So I'm bringing this in the vaccine light.
Yes.
That if we have children who are not vaccinated, and they go to school, they mix with others, they play with them.
Oh my goodness.
They are vulnerable to infections, and so when they contract it, it will be such a severe outbreak. So maybe this should, inform the government to move with speed. We're trying to save our entire generation ahead of time. It's preventing. If these children are left vulnerable and they contract these diseases,
Yeah.
all the other children, because like I said, it doesn't cure you, just, helps prevent.
Yes.
They will still be a very serious outbreak. And will we be able to contain it if we are, reluctant at this point in time where these children need the vaccine to build their immunity at an early stage? That's the fear.
And I think, and you're right, Ankey, because, in 2024, when you're still talking about cholera outbreaks, you're still talking about lack of basic medical things and medicine and equipment. It shows the lack of commitment from the government and lack of commitment from leadership. Because leadership is to provide, because Kenyans are heavily taxed every day just to provide these things. If a government cannot provide for you education and health and social protection, then what would they provide, Wanyonyi?
Charles, you'll be surprised the number of Kenyans who do not have access to a toilet in this time and age. So, I mean,
Oh my goodness.
it's basic planning, and it's abhorrible. And incidentally, there's been an uproar the last, I think, 1 or 2 weeks on Muguka.
All
Yes.
right.
And when the leaders came out fighting, the president said, in fact, we are doing 500 million to do value addition to Muguka.
So
And why couldn't they
put that money.
money in vaccines and do it early enough so that we do not have these embarrassing situation where kids are told, nenda nyumbani utarudi next week.
But Wanyonyi,
That's
sorry.
horrible.
Sorry,
Yes,
Charles.
yes.
But Wanyonyi, there's the 1.2, is it billion or million?
It's 1.2 billion.
Yes.
That is the budget.
I mean, compared to the 500 million, I'm just weighing in on this. Then there's
Oh, you
enough
see-
effort.
Actually, Gavi said bring in 2 billion.
All right.
Yeah.
These guys have 1.2. And you see why they cannot negotiate is because they owe Gavi, I think, 6.4 billion.
Previous
for the-
vaccines.
Yeah, for the previous
vaccines
last year or
provided,
the
yeah.
other years.
Yeah.
So here you are told, can you raise 2
1.2
billion? That
Yeah.
means we needed 800 million. 500 for Muguka.
is available.
That's 1.7. You can easily slash another 300. I've seen they are slashing Gashagua's and Mudavadi's.
Mudavadi is
confidential
200 budget, 200 million.
they could easily
Gachagua
raise this
700
thing.
million.
Just matter of priority and planning and proper information.
I think
And probably having a human heart, looking at these children as our children.
because them they can provide, they can afford.
That is not a
Private.
From
bill
private,
that the
yes.
government should sweat over.
But Wanyonyi, I think you brought a very important topic where we are going to exactly. The Muguka debate. Madam Ankey.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen someone chewing mirror or Muguka or this
Oh,
thing?
Charles, I have seen lots of them. In fact, it's like a cup of tea for a number of Kenyans. Look, I don't know if you guys bought matatus, but if you sit near the driver, not all of them. I mean,
Yeah.
Kenyans, I love you, but you see, there's always something on the cheek. Or just if you're in an Uber, just right beside the driver, there's a number of I don't know how to call them, a stem and leaves on it, and it's usually green, so it has the moment of. So if I'm not wrong,
Yeah.
I actually have an experience where an Uber driver requested that he would have to branch through, is it Pankani?
Yes.
When you're getting into town,
Yeah.
just to purchase. That was very awkward, actually. As a client, you're thinking,
Yeah.
how is that my problem? But that would have come out either as he was going to work long hours,
Yes.
or was just an addict. So I dealt with that a lot, yes.
So this debate, the Muguka debate, Mombasa County is saying we are banning this. And the president has just come up with a whole presidential party and formed a committee to investigate and lift that ban. What do you think is going on? Is it political? Is it a moral question?
That's for me?
Yes.
Okay. It's a tough question. Different sections in this. I'm going to speak as me. I like to look at things on two sides.
Yes.
Political, I have not thought that far.
Yeah.
Moral question, I think there's more of a socioeconomic approach to this thing. Morally, of course, you're talking about bringing in a whole generation, the effects of Muguka. I personally feel there is a moral aspect to it. All right, because we have young boys indulging in this. So my question is, if the positive outweigh the negative, or the negative outweigh the positive.
Yeah.
My realization out of research is there's very little positive, and there's a lot of negative, according to me. But is banning the solution? Perhaps if we went harder on creating awareness, sensitization, and proper implementation of the regulation that already exists, maybe we could get a balance. But it is both a moral question and an economic question. I'm yet to see the political.
Yes.
I know, because I'm sorry if I'm taking too much time.
Yeah.
But looking at the analysis, the counties that produce more of this, Mira and Muguka, as much as it's in the legal acts, are not the ones that come forth as the most
Consuming.
consumers.
Yes, they don't consume them.
So this irony, it really has my eyebrows raised. Why so? If you're cooking in your house, you eat more of it, then you give it to the neighbor. How does that work?
I'm
Depends. If you're cooking for a hotel,
you sell out.
And you eat.
and also, Wanyonyi, what Ankey is saying, is it these stories are Jabba?
I don't know.
Is it stories are Jabba we are talking here?
Because there are critical things when you look at this Muguka business. One, Abdulsamad says the Mombasa youth are being zombified
Yes.
by eating Muguka. There could be some truth in that.
Yeah.
But what is making them eat this thing from morning to evening? They do not have jobs. They do not have anywhere to go. They are idling. So how do you pass time? You say, let's have Muguka.
Tupige, sherehe.
So probably he needs to find them some job or work. They might reduce
The chew time.
the consumption. Probably they'll start chewing after work
Yeah.
or immediately before.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Number two, I do not know if the research has been done or documentation done to really say that Muguka is what is causing this problem in Mombasa. We've had serious drug issues in the same region, not just Mombasa, but the coast province. Nairobi, very many of those people eat that thing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how many are zombified, or to use Abdulsamad, that it's killing our youth.
Yeah.
I don't know if there is research done. I've tried to pour through some notes here and there. I haven't come up with any statistic that you can support the governor's
Claims.
Last year, or was it early this year or last year, there were images of young men sleeping while they were standing.
The stomping thing.
Yeah, and they say there's a drug called fentanyl.
Yeah.
Fentanyl is a synthetic drug, and they are saying it is a substitute to cocaine.
Yeah.
And I think it's 100 times cheaper.
Yeah.
Sorry if probably this might not be good for podcast, because people might want to find out where this thing is.
Yeah.
In the US, they thought, this is a small man's problem because it was not affecting the rich who can still afford cocaine. In Colombia, they were happy because the barons are now having to rethink their trade. There's not a lot of cocaine money coming in. But what happened? American youth became zombified on that thing. Some were even dying while sleeping. And it became a serious crisis. So I would urge the coast leaders, if they have good data, when they come to this committee, when they come to meet the president, present it on the table and say, this is what this drug does. The president said, the Crops Act has it as one of our crops,
It's
so there's
one of
no
the
way
crops,
you can
yeah.
ban it.
Yeah.
But I mean,
It is there.
look at the finance bill. It's being debated and things will be changed.
Right.
These are things that we can change. But let it be done on information, on research, on science. If there's nothing happening to these kids, let Abdulsamad find them jobs or spur the economy to such a level that these kids can probably open their businesses and keep themselves busy. Because 9 out of 10 times is because they're idle. That's why they explore different things to pass time, to feel nice, to kill the depression that comes with not having income and issues like that.
Well, you see, when you're saying that, you remember we had a discussion, Wanyonyi, about the Yemenis, a country which was brought down because of chewing miraa. Everything they operate in miraa time, what they call the cut time. Is it and you know the coastals? They are they like nice things. They like the relaxed atmosphere in working. Is it that this is why they are trying to ban it, because they have work to do, but they do not? Because even in Yemen, they had work to do, but people had to operate under cut time.
Can I weigh in? Because I was going to bring this to Wanyonyi as well.
Yeah.
One of the, research that I've come across says this allows you to work longer hours.
That
Gives you the energy
I think is
to stay out longer.
More of the myth on Mira than on Muguka. Because the people who do Mira, they say the long distance, these truck drivers fancy Mira because it will keep them awake, it will keep them steady on the road.
Yeah.
So they need it because they have to do probably 10, 12, 15 hours driving.
On the road, yes.
So they need that stimulant to keep them
awake.
going.
Yeah.
In Yemen, they are taking cut.
Yeah.
For the same reason. Of course, it's a stimulant, it makes you feel good, but it keeps you also going. So I don't know whether that research was specific to Mira or Muguka. Muguka is a fairly recent, not recent as such, but the consumption has just skyrocketed over the last few years.
Yeah.
It was not something that you would see people moving around with compared to Mira. Mira, people have chewed it for years and ages. But on this one, on the ban on Muguka, I don't know, probably, maybe you can share your research. We can go through it and we'll discuss it. We'll discuss it the next time.
I would love it because, look, gentlemen, in fact, this sparked the conversation of what's the difference between Muguka and Mira. One plant, stem, and leaves.
No. Muguka is a totally different plant. Muguka is a shrub. Mira is a whole tree.
It's a whole tree.
Muguka is planted in
Meru, in Embu,
part of Runyenje.
Yes.
But for Mira, you will get it in Meru and parts of Taita Taveta. They also grow their version of Mira. So these are totally different things.
So
the chemical composition of Muguka will knock you out in a few minutes. Mira, you can chew it the whole day.
So that's why I was coming. Did you know the component? The potency of
it's cathine and cathinine.
Yeah, that's a chemical in the crop that gets you high.
Yes.
But the concentration on Muguka looks like it's probably 10, 20 times more than that of Mira. Secondly, you don't chew Mira leaves. They take the bark from the stems.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a totally different drug.
I get it, but now because we have to really, really digest this.
Yes.
One grows faster. One is able to be harvested faster, and that's the Muguka.
Yes.
And the Mira takes
Muguka is a shrub. It's like rosemary. And this other one is an avocado. You plant the tree and wait for each season
to mature.
And
the older the tree, the better the
quality.
The quality
of the twig.
Yeah.
Can I ask Wanyonyi?
Yes.
So what's the difference? They're all stimulants.
Actually, let me ask you, is there a difference between beer and whiskey?
It's alcohol.
It's alcohol, but is there a difference?
I don't drink.
Do you partake?
I don't partake. I don't partake.
So there is a difference. There is actually a difference even if you look at, say, the beers. There is Guinness, there is Tusker.
Yeah.
There is
right.
this, there is
and
that.
the potency
Wine.
is different.
Yeah. The composition is different.
Okay.
Yes.
But alcohol is alcohol. At the end of the day, it will get you high. It will have hurt your liver. Depending on how long you take it, long-term effect. Doesn't matter what kind of alcohol it is.
Let me ask you. The deputy president has been on a campaign against alcoholism in central Kenya. They are calling it second generation. It's different from these other things.
Okay,
so it's alcohol, yes, but it's very different. So Muguka is very different from Mira.
So Wanyonyi, we are saying that there's a political question here. The president formed this committee not to lose his base, but also
Definitely.
morally, and that's why he's invoking this Crops Act. Because look at it this way: politically, the president was heavily voted from the mountain region, and if he tries to go with what Abdul Samad is saying along the coastals, that this is a drug. And remember, his regime, and what I say brought the moral question, is that when the president came to State House, the first thing they said is they closed the bar. Isn't it? that now we will have crusades in State House. And then the wives who have been, Rigiji's wife is Dorcas is a pastor. This one is also a fairly religious lady. So they believe in actually changing the generation to be more sober, more work-oriented. But their husbands have a political
point
question.
Of correction. There's a difference between being religious and being sober.
Yes.
There are people who are religious but extremely intoxicated. There are those who are sober but are not really religious.
So, politically, what does it mean for the president?
Actually, before we get to the president, I think these Embu leaders are also telling half-truths about this crop. Yes, there are families that depend on it for their livelihoods. But if you look at how it has disrupted learning, the people who harvest that Muguka are children.
Going to school, yeah.
They've dropped out of school because they can earn a few coins from picking Muguka.
Yeah.
And once a 10-year-old, a teenager, gets into the money rhythm, I doubt if they'll be running to Mr. Kamau for mathematics homework and things like those. So it is a serious social issue in Embu and probably parts of Meru that these leaders also need to discuss and say, fine, we are getting some money from this thing, but what is it doing to the families? What is it doing to our education system, to the society and all that? Ruto, of course, is playing politics. There's a lot of heat in Mount Kenya. Some generated by his deputy, others by his cronies, and a few fires here and there that I think is just his wild imagination. So why would you want to pick an hour fight with Muguka farmers and Embu leaders?
Yeah.
Sort out these other ones. Kidogo, we'll deal with it later. So yes, the president's decision was political. Very. Because why didn't he call, say, Nakada?
To deal with it.
Why don't you do your presentation? Then we can decide whether we change this crop act or not. Where did this 500 million, Bob, for value addition to Moka come from?
Yeah.
If it is not a political statement. Number 3, what value addition are they adding to Muguka?
Muguka juice.
Because this Muguka is just their leaves. Unless you can say that there is a process you can dry them and use them probably in the evening because they are pretty perishable. You look at the way those cars are driven.
The pro boxes.
The pro boxes. It tells a story of a very perishable stimulant.
Yeah.
So unless it's 500 million, they are going to buy probably, I don't know, giant freezers or the ones they give KCC and milk farmers. I don't know what value addition you'll be adding to this thing. So, I mean, if the president was genuine, he should have said, okay, hey, chief, let's halt this ban. We formed a committee. Let's discuss this crop. And 2 things will come out. Do we
change the act?
Degazette this Muguka as a crop so that we make it a drug and an illegal substance?
Yeah.
Then 2, if you are convinced that there is an opportunity here, say we'll start a fund, 500 million, to add value to A, B, C, D. Otherwise, when you say we don't ban, it's a crop, then you give them 500 million and you're calling people to the table to discuss what?
I mean, also, Charles, looking at it, I'd like to bring in, the statistics, 60,000 tons weekly. That's how much we consume.
60,000?
60,000 tons weekly. Leave alone how much we export. And fine, if it's for the traders and they want to export it to wherever, I know UK and another country banned it, but if it's for exports, I mean, I think for me, I agree with Wanyonyi, would have just had a more genuine conversation. Nakada is very big on drugs.
Yeah.
Have them on the table. Discuss what are the pro and the cons, how far can we go, and also bringing, Kenyans to consent. I mean, we're a democratic country. Where Abdul Samad and probably the Kilifi counties went wrong is to just declare a ban. But the
unilaterally.
But the Embu courts, I think, came out live on this.
Yeah.
We have it, withheld. This ban probably lifted until July. Maybe we can hear again what the courts say in July, probably 7th thereabout, on this matter. But so far, it is what it is.
And Charles,
yes.
I think it's just the same thing that we are discussing about vaccines. It's a government that doesn't plan. Look at Rigiji's fight against alcoholism in Central. What was the principle, what was the base? That the women there are protesting that their men are becoming impotent and not
They're not responsible.
performing
Yes.
and doing things like us. But look at the statistics that we get
Yeah.
from the same
Economic
government,
survey. Yeah.
KNBS.
Yeah.
They're saying
Hmm.
women from the region have multiple partners. It's not like they move from Muranga to Mumias or Bungoma.
Yes,
Get these partners.
actually, in
They are
Muranga,
still
But we can
guys.
explain.
They
Muranga,
have the highest number.
yes, Muranga
of
was the
women
highest
with
number.
multiple partners.
So
Partners.
can I explain?
Number two,
Yes.
Wanyonyi.
Yeah.
Wanyonyi.
just a minute. That's what you thought. Number two,
Yes.
they are the women with access to the best family planning. What do you call them?
Contraceptive?
Contraceptives and information. They're empowered.
Yeah.
So when you come and say, these women is because of
Alcohol.
no.
You're lying. But
You
Ankey,
may
why
not be
you
lying,
so-
but you're misinformed.
Ankey, you are
You know-
not agreeing with these
You know, when
multiple
reports are
partners.
released, number one, I mean, there was a procedure to it. There were questionnaires, there were questions, there were samples of people who were represented in this
Yes.
report. I beg to disagree with Wanyonyi saying these reports are contradicting. If I do not hear you clearly.
No. I
in
was
terms
saying,
of multiple partners and
said
irresponsible partners.
Gachagua stood on a podium
And
and told
said-
the country that in Central, young men are
Not performing.
because they're taking this beer, this drink, this
Second
second
generation.
generation
Illicit brew.
alcohol.
Mm.
But the research from the same government, the Ministry of Treasury, from the Treasury, KNBS, Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, says women in this region
Have multiple,
multiple
partners.
partners. and they have access to family planning methods, the different methods that are there. They are some of the biggest consumers of this thing. So now, assuming you are not drinking, and this woman is taking these contraceptives, when will you give birth?
You know,
So I'm just saying, let this information be informed.
Okay,
Let
okay.
research be done. Let people sit on the table with
And,
experts
yeah.
and agree.
Ankey,
Not just making political statements left, right, and center and hope for a solution.
I know that there's probably our time is running out.
Yeah.
But you started by you brought in something that allowed me to talk into. I'm not defending
yes.
the first lady and the second
Morality and morals question. And
the fact that they said do away with the bar from the State House. It's how you introduce this question.
Yeah.
Is it women only who care about
yes.
the morality concerns? I don't think so.
How does shutting the State House bar really or caring about morality?
No, Wanyonyi, I think we should agree on this. I don't know, was it there was a book I read, An Enemy of the People,
Yeah.
when I was that will show you how old I am.
That's
But Stockman talks
yeah.
about moderation.
Yeah.
And I think this is what the conversation is. We might not really ban alcohol, all right? But we can do away with, a certain age limit, a certain age being involved. Even discos and bars, you go in if you want. But there's an age group that we need to look into. I think there are many things to look into this Muguka thing
yeah.
or plant.
Yeah.
I am not for the complete banning, but I think the real questions are not being asked yet.
Yeah.
And if regulations that are already there, the act, the crop, whatever it is not really giving direction to Kenyans, let us really look deeper into the cons and the pros and be honest as Kenyans. If it's hurting us more, export it. And even those who banned it on the other side had a reason. Can we borrow notes and look closely? Can we reach a I don't know if I make sense. Let us reach an agreement that doesn't hurt the traders and doesn't hurt families in that regard.
Finally, I want to ask you, Ankey, do you know G-Bag and Jag?
G-Bag and Jag.
I
Do
think it's a popular song. I hear it
Oh,
on
maybe.
radio.
What does
Yes.
it sing?
Leo tuko G-Bag and Jag. G-Bag is supposed to be the Muguka bag and Jag is Senator Keg.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Something like
Wow.
But also G-Bag means people who roll the other plant. You
Bag?
buy it. Yes, you buy it in a bag also.
And it's in a song.
yes.
It is played in matatus, in
G-Bag
radios.
and Jag.
So our
that's
teenagers are
another
listening to this.
Gen Z problem.
See?
Gen Z problem.
And Gen Z is the generation we're talking about.
Yeah.
You know what? There used to be a boss at the Kenya film
Yeah.
classification. I think by now it would have been, I don't know, banned or something. What is G-Bag and what is that?
G-Bag and Jag.
Hiyo ni ngoma.
Of course.
Nimechoka.
It's a hit.
And it's a hit.
It's
Yes.
a hit.
And we're like, we're banning. So then such songs should not be played in Mombasa either. And Kilifi.
No, they should be played about who.
No, that
Sensitized
what are
people.
they selling?
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's been real. At least now you know G-Bag and Jag.
Right.
Thank you. Keep watching and listening.